3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
I'm Laura Lepley, a Metro Park Ranger. Here at Oxbow Park, safety is our #1 priority, not only for our guests, but for our staff members. I'm at the Welcome Center and you're at the Regional Center. The council chambers are located on the 3rd floor. In the event of a fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room. Go down the stairway to the 2nd floor, exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside that entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the reception desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you, and come visit us at Oxbow Park.
Metro Council business meeting to order. I'll ask our clerk, Georgia Langer, to call the roll for attendance.
Absolutely. Councillor Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Nolan.
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Councillor Rosenthal.
Present.
Councillor Simpson and Council President Gonzalez are excused, and Deputy Council President Wong.
Present. Thank you. All right, let's open up for public communications on non-agenda items. Georgia, could you please describe to our audience our procedures we use for public communications?
Yes, if you're testifying on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. If you are testifying in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist. You can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. The timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, there are timers located at your testimony table, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. If you are testifying on an agenda item and have not signed up in advance, you can also fill out a blue card in the back of the room and bring it up to me now or anytime before the agenda item, or you can raise your virtual hand at the beginning of the agenda item that you wish to testify on. And Deputy Council President Wong, I do not have anyone who signed up in advance. Not seeing any hands raised in the virtual audience. And I see no one coming up in the physical audience.
Okay. Great, thank you. We'll close public testimony and move on to our consent agenda. We have 2 items on today's consent agenda, starting with resolution number 26-5607 for the purpose of amending one project of a 2024-2027 MTIP to meet federal project delivery requirements. Also, resolution number 26-5618 for the purpose of accepting the May 19th, 2026 primary election abstract of votes for Metro. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move consent.
Second. Okay, it's moved by Councilor Lewis, seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. We'll move on to resolutions, starting with resolution number 26-5615 for the purpose of authorizing an exemption from competitive bidding and procurement of construction manager general contractor services by competitive requests for proposals for the Expo Center interim sports pivot project. First on our item, I will recess the meeting of the Metro Council and convene the Metro Contract Review Board. Today's procurement matter relates to the pivot to year-round sports events at the Expo Center. So we have Eric Crandall Capital Project Manager joining us, along with Kim Paul, Procurement Analyst. Come on up.
Good morning, Metro Councilors. My name is Kim Paul. I am the Metro Procurement Analyst assisting the Construction Project Management team who are implementing the Expo Interim Sports Pivot. Eric Crandall, Construction Project Manager, and I are here today to ask you, the local contract review board, to authorize an alternative procurement method for this project. The State of Oregon Public Contracting Statutes and our LCRB administrative rules require public improvement projects to be procured by Given the complexity of the project, critical construction coordination, sensitivity and time constraints of the project, Procurement Services recommends a value-based procurement method in the form of a request for proposal for construction manager general contractor. This qualification-based selection approach provides a competitive process, and it allows for the general contractor and architect engineering team to work together from the outset, resulting in decreasing overall risk for the project, allowing the team to design and strategically define the scheduled construction while the venue remains open, allowing for collaborative design and defining building methods which will decrease potential change orders during construction, and allowing for cost estimating throughout each phase of the design process to eventually come to a guaranteed maximum price rather than value engineering out critical aspects after the fact. With this process, we'll be able to evaluate other important factors such as contractor qualifications, previous experience constructing complex projects, diversity plan, and their track record of meeting deadlines and guaranteed minimum prices. I ask that you approve us using a request for proposal for the CMGC procurement method for the Expo Interim Sports Pivot project.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Can you talk a little bit more about your outreach plan for having a diverse pool of applicants?
The outreach plan?
Good morning, Metro Councilors. I'm Gabi Schuster, Procurement Manager. So typically for a CMGC, we have to wait with the outreach until we have a prime contractor in place, because at this time we don't know what the subcontracting opportunities are. We can do outreach work to find a prime contractor, and it is unlikely for a large project like that to find a COVID certified or a small business, but we always try. We work with business support organizations like NAMAC, Latino Build, PBDG, and OAMI, and we can do a presentation together. We regularly attend their meetings and can announce this project, and also announce that subcontracting opportunities will be then available once the prime contractor has been selected. And then once we have the prime contractor, we can work closely with them to again return to the business support, small business support organizations that we work with, and make sure that we offer those opportunities to small contractors.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you. Are there any further questions? No. Okay. Is there a motion?
I'd move 265615.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Lewis and seconded by Councilor Nolan. Seeing no further discussion, Georgia, let's do the roll call.
Counselor Lewis?
Yes.
Counselor Nolan?
Yes.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Yes.
Deputy Council President Wong?
Aye. The resolution passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the Metro Contract Review Board is now adjourned, and the meeting of the Metro Council is now reconvened. Let's start with resolution number 26-5589 for the purpose of adopting the annual budget for fiscal year 26-27 making appropriations, and levying ad valorem taxes. Moving on to the budget, we have 2 resolutions before us today to finalize the upcoming fiscal year budget. We couldn't have done this work without our amazing finance team and staff in each department. Many thanks to everyone for their effort in working through this process with us. Councilors, before we begin any discussion and consideration of this resolution, I'd like to make space for us to acknowledge any conflicts of interest, and particularly those arising because of our positions as councilors receiving compensation through this budget. I'll ask Metro Attorney Carrie McLaren to please provide a short statement of this requirement for the record.
Thank you, Deputy Council President Fong and councilors. Just a quick background, because this is somewhat of a new process and procedure that we will go through with adoption of the annual budget. As you all know, Oregon budget law requires that council adopt a budget annually. So this is a required act of council. At the same time, the Oregon Government Ethics Commission recently opined that there may be an actual conflict of interest for councilors adopting budgets where those budgets also include compensation for councilors. Therefore, at the end, in the 2025 legislative session, there was a bill that was proposed and actually supported by the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, as well as the League of Oregon Cities and the Oregon School Boards Association, to sort of resolve the conflict between there being an actual conflict of interest for people voting on budgets that include compensation and the required act to adopt a budget. That bill, Senate Bill 983, passed at the very end of the legislative session last year and went into effect in late June of 2025. So what the bill now codified allows councilors to do is to vote or to deliberate, discuss, vote on the budget. But first, you must make a statement of an actual conflict of interest. So in the normal course, an actual conflict of interest would mean that you don't actually participate. This recognizes that your participation is required, and so you're allowed to do so after making that statement of an actual conflict of interest. You all have scripts before you. I'm happy to provide any additional advice or context if you have questions, and hope that sort of explains where we are, even if convoluted.
Great, thank you, Carrie. Any questions for Carrie on this?
I do have a question.
Councilor Lewis.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for that explanation. Just for the record, can you let us all know how our salaries get set?
Yes, I was meant to say that. So this is an interesting part for Metro, particularly because Metro Council Charter, council compensation is set by Metro's charter, which was adopted by voters first in the early 90s and then again in 2000. So council here actually has no control over your salaries. You cannot change them, but yet this new interpretation is what created the issue that the legislation then sought to resolve.
And to be very clear, it's set actually by the interaction of our charter and state statute, because the number in which we index our percentage of a number to is set by the legislature in statute.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, correct.
Further, I don't know if you can speak to this, or there might be others in the room. How does the legislature set their own salary?
I cannot speak to that. There may be others in this room who can.
Not to put a colleague on the spot.
Mr. Chair, as a former legislator, when I served, and I cannot vouch for whether changes have been made since then, but when I served, the legislature biennially voted on its own salary, approved its own salaries.
Counselor, I believe you're right. I also recall that 2 years ago, the state had the opportunity to change that by a salary commission, and that was soundly defeated. So that is no longer, I think, on the table for a state legislature. So with the language that we have here, did the legislature read something similar before voting on their budget this year?
Councilor Lewis, unfortunately, I can't answer that question directly. I don't know that they did. I don't know what their process is for.
And if you had taken time to research that, I would have said you were not spending your time correctly because you were preparing for JPAC this morning. So thank you for doing that. I'm just trying to point out the absurdity of the position I'm put in. I will read this, but that is my line of questioning. Thank you for the good advice.
So I have a conflict to declare, or did you want to?
Oh, I'll start. Based on the circumstances described by Metro Attorney McLaren, I am publicly disclosing that I have an actual conflict of interest in this matter. However, pursuant to ORS 244.120, I am authorized to participate in the discussion and debate and vote on Metro's annual budget.
We just go down the line.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a conflict to declare. Based on the circumstances described by Metro Attorney McLaren, I am publicly disclosing that I have an actual conflict of interest in this matter. However, pursuant to ORS 244.120, I am authorized to participate in the discussion and debate and to vote on Metro's annual budget. In fact, I'm required to.
Based on the circumstances described by Metro Attorney McLaren, I am publicly disclosing that I have an actual conflict of interest on this matter. However, pursuant to ORS 244.120, I am authorized to participate in the discussion and debate and vote on Metro's annual budget.
Based on the circumstances described by Metro Attorney McLaren, I am publicly disclosing that I have an actual conflict of interest in this matter. However, pursuant to ORS 244.120, I am authorized to participate in the discussion and debate and vote on Metro's annual budget.
Okay, thank you. Well, now that that's completed, we have our Budget Director, Cinnamon Williams, here to provide a brief presentation followed by a vote for each resolution.
Good morning, Deputy President, or is it Deputy President Councilor Huang, and Metro Council. I am Cinnamon Williams, Budget Director for Metro, and she, her pronouns for the record. I am here to present the kind of final step to our adopted budget process. Brian Kennedy usually does this, but he is on vacation, well deserved. This should be a very, very short presentation, and none of this information is new. So we'll just quickly get through it. Next slide, please. And we'll just kind of go through, I should probably put my glasses on. We'll just go through this overview, and we'll just go to the next slide. All right, so he loves to do a big presentation, like a visual to show you kind of how you've gotten all the way to this end. Back in November 2025, he presented the 5-year forecast. There was a lot of budget development, and the CEO, acting as the budget officer, presented the proposed budget back in April 9th, and then you guys gavelled in as the budget committee, and we had lots of conversations. Then you approved the budget as the budget committee, and you gavelled back in as the elected body, and we moved that approved budget to the TSCC, and that TSCC had a hearing, and we are now at budget adoption on June 18th. It's a long process. Next slide, please. All right, so we touched the budget quite frequently here. We had lots of conversations. We had our public phase started in April, 9 department presentations, 3 public hearings, 10 council meetings and work sessions, and 1 TSCC hearing. Next slide, please. So the budget message themes were seeking stability in a time of uncertainty. The financial outlook for Metro is uneven throughout the agency, which includes WPES, has reductions, but we had stability in parks and nature, housing and planning, and really good, prosperous year expectation for the zoo. The venues continue to face a challenging economic environment. So those were the basic theme messages. Next slide, please. So our approach this for FY 26-27 was an agency-wide cost management measure that was done differently for each department, and they presented that. We wanted to invest in essential modernization efforts for the agency. The general fund invested in venues, which was important, the Expos Futures or Sports Pivot and Historical Memorialization, the Convention Center Reserve, Stabilization Reserve, and local economic development opportunity. And then lastly, we're still using our strategic targets to prioritize our resources. Next slide, please. So significant changes for the FY 26-27 budget from this fiscal year's budget, 25-26, was a reduction in solid waste services in the WPES department, investments, and we just talked about in this last slide, investment improvements for the Metro's financial and human resource system, that is the ERP, and cybersecurity. The zoo bond program is now really ramping up. That is another major change, and the general fund support for visitor venues is significant. Next slide, please. So the resolution before you today to adopt the budget is 265589. It adopts the 2026 annual budget. It sets the appropriations. It allows both the fund and the department to spend money, and it sets the taxes. Next slide, please. So this is usually the slide that says Councilor Budget Notes and Amendments, but you had none, so it's basically blank. So next slide, please. So, budget summary. What you're adopting today is a budget of $1.6 billion, about a little bit over 1,100 FTE. This is just shy of a 15% reduction from FY26 amended budget and a 1.5% reduction in FTE. Next slide, please. So you've seen these rates. They come to you all the time. But the permanent rate is 966 cent per thousand. The Parks and Nature local option levy rate is 960 cent per thousand. Our debt service rate is 39 cents per thousand. So if you have an average $250,000 assessed value house, it's about $146 per year per household. Next slide, please. So this is my last slide. This is for Resolution 265590, which adopts the 2026-27 through 2030-31 5-year capital improvement plan and readopts Metro's financial policies. Metro's financial policies, nothing has materially changed about those policies. They do look a little different. We've added language for GFOAs, proper language. They wanted to add some stuff, and a little bit of language for just a little bit better clarity, but the policies have not changed. And that is all I have to present in front of you. I will hand it back over to council for any questions.
Thank you. Just a quick clarifying on the cost per average household. Does that include all our levies and bonds plus the general fund?
It includes our tax, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, colleagues, any questions for someone? Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Chair. Just two quick questions. One on the cost per household. It's directly proportional to the average estimated house. I mean, because $250,000 is probably not the average household value these days. So if it's 400 or 500,000, that would be twice times 146. Is that correct?
Yes, we've always used 250,000 as an assessed value as just a benchmark. We've used that every year, so we can kind of see it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question is, in modernization, I believe there's one particular project that's taking up most of the space for the modernization, and that's data and security management. Is that and the transition in its systems? Could you just go over that a little bit more briefly?
Oh, sure. The majority of what I have is the ERP project, which is the Enterprise Resource Planning, which is the most significant, which is our moving from PeopleSoft into Workday, which is our big project. But the cybersecurity, I don't know as much about. I don't have Robin here to discuss it, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, is there a motion on resolution 26-5589?
So move.
Second.
Okay, resolution is moved by Councilor Rosenthal and seconded by Councilor Lewis. Is there any discussion? Do you have your hand up? No? Okay.
I'll take my hand out, sorry.
Chair, can I just, one clarification to Councilor Rosenthal's point, and I agree with you, we should update. I do want to point out the difference between assessed value and market value, just for the record. So we can verify this and get back to you. The assessed value, I believe, of a home in the Portland area is between $300,000 and $350,000. Because again, remember, assessed values are rising much, much slower than market values because of our property tax system and measures 5 and 50. So I just, 250,000 is not that far off. And I do think moving forward, we can update that every year to capture that actual average assessed value. But I just don't want to leave the impression that most people are paying significantly more than 146, because I think actually the average is between 300 and 350,000. So
That's
it's
great.
a little bit more. Your point is well taken.
Great clarity. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, seeing no more discussion, Georgia, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Counselor Nolan.
Yes.
Counselor Lewis.
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal.
Aye.
And Deputy Council President Wong.
Aye. The resolution passes unanimously. Next up, we have resolution number 26-5590 for purpose of adopting the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 26-27 through 2030-31 and readopting Metro's financial policies. Next up is a capital improvement plan and financial policies. Senator, could you please provide an overview on this resolution? Did you have anything additional?
No, I don't have any, sorry. I presented it all at one time.
Okay, great. Councilors, any questions on capital improvement plan or financial policies? Nope. Okay, seeing none.
I would just point out that in the resolution, Exhibit A is the resolution, I believe, and it references Exhibit A, which is self-reflexive. I think there's a clarification that needs to be done there in terms of, I think it's probably Exhibit B. I haven't quite checked it out.
Well, the Excel file is also titled Exhibit A, or the PDF of the Excels.
Do you want to take a recess and get that fixed?
That again, can you repeat that one more time?
I have our budget manager taking a look at it.
Why don't we take a quick recess?
5-minute
Okay.
recess.
Let's take a recess.
Just a 5-minute recess.
Take 5. Okay, so do you recommend we proceed because it's...
I recommend we proceed, yes,
Okay,
and we will
okay.
correct it on the online version.
Okay, seems like there's an error online. We'll correct, but the documents are
In order.
in order. Okay. Okay, thanks. I think we were going to... Oh, Councilor Lewis, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question, I just had a statement, that I believe that, in this moment with such frayed politics, so much of where people are finding splinters is where, governments, redirect all their focus into new initiatives and to chasing the shiny, and they forget their responsibility of taking care of what they have. And one thing I really appreciate about Metro and all of our conversations colleagues is we don't underappreciate what we have, and we're willing to invest in making it not only better, but quite excellent in terms of public service. So thank you for the commitment to CIP, I think we've really scaffolded the CIP in a way that it hasn't had as much support and attention even 6, 7 years ago. So this is really important, and I'm glad it's elevated to this level. Thanks.
Okay, is there a resolution on number 265590?
I would move.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Councilor Lewis and seconded by Councilor Nolan. Is there any further discussion? No? Okay, Georgia, can you please call the roll?
Counselor Rosenthal.
Yay.
Counselor Nolan.
Yes.
Counselor Lewis.
Aye.
Deputy Council President Wong.
Aye, the resolution passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the whole team for great work this year. Okay, we're going to adjourn the council meeting and call to order today's work session. The work session topic is on the Expo Future project update. Returning to the subject of the Expo Center, we welcome the Expo team for a regular update today covering sports marketing, sports investment, and historical significance. With several folks joining us, I'm going to ask our General Manager of Visitor Venues, Craig Stroud, to introduce the team.
Pointed to them.
Oh. Well, welcome.
Okay.
Good morning, Deputy Council President Wong, councilors, staff, and partners. I'm Cindy Wallace, Executive Director of the Oregon Convention Center and the Portland Expo Center. I use she, her pronouns. Joining me today is Leanne Amuri. She is the Expo Future Project Manager, and we're here to give you an update on the Expo Future Project. Next slide. We're going to give a historical significance and memorialization update, sports sales and marketing update, sports infrastructure update, and we're going to speak for about 20 minutes. We're going to pause at the end of each segment, and then at the end we'll have time for even more questions and discussion. Next slide. As we begin today's updates, I want to revisit the two foundational objectives that have guided the Expo Future project from the beginning. The first objective is to recognize and honor Expo as a site of national historical significance by thoughtfully memorializing the histories of forced displacement during World War II, the Vanport flood, and the area's pre-colonial significance to Indigenous communities. This work ensures that the future of Expo remains grounded in the stories, experiences, and contributions of the communities most closely connected to this site. The second objective is to leverage Oregon's position as a national leader in sports and outdoor recreation by transforming Expo into a community-centered destination that supports amateur, professional, and recreational sports while generating economic opportunity for the region. As we move through today's presentation, you'll see how our memorialization efforts and sports infrastructure planning are advancing to support both of these objectives. Leanne will present the historical significance and memorialization update. Next slide.
All right. Good morning. So again, I'm Leanne Amuri, the project manager for Expo Future. It's nice to see you all today. I'll be sharing a brief update on the historical significance and memorialization work, or HSMC, which I'll be referring to it as. This will include the feasibility assessment of the HSMC recommendations, the governance structure, Hall A engineering analysis, and the early stages of interpretive planning. Before I begin, I also just want to emphasize what Cindy mentioned, that all of this work has been grounded in a commitment to respect and honor the communities that are connected to this space. We know that there is still a lot to learn as this work moves forward, and we really intend to build on our understanding. So I will start with the feasibility assessment. Staff convened an internal work group to review the recommendations developed by the HSMC, and used a scoring system and a set of criteria to assess the 46 recommendations. This allowed us to better understand what implementation could look like and also to identify the operational, legal, and equity considerations that are related to each recommendation. The goal of this work wasn't to revise or to change any of these recommendations. It was to help us understand what could be implemented with the resources and authority currently available at Metro, and also where analysis additional analysis needs to be done. Essentially, more funding needs to be procured or partnerships may be needed. Our next step is consultation with tribes and engagement with community partners to discuss these findings and to gather feedback. We're currently developing our approach for those conversations, which we plan to have this summer. If you see on the right side of this slide, this is a screenshot of a draft infographic that we've developed. It's essentially a digital report, and it summarizes the methodology, results, and rationale behind each score. And we plan to share this once it's finalized. Next slide, please. Alongside the feasibility work, another focus has been establishing a long-term governance structure to support interpretive planning. So the governance structure is intended to clarify roles, responsibilities, decision-making, and oversight. It also will be defining how Metro, community representatives, and other partners will be working together. So the way that we've designed this structure is that so it's flexible in some areas so that it can continue to evolve over time. In addition to the feasibility and the governance work, we recently completed the Hall A engineering analysis. As you may remember, last week we shared a summary of this analysis. The findings showed that Hall A can technically be preserved and separated from Halls B and C. However, preserving the building would require a substantial investment to address the aging infrastructure, seismic risks, and building code requirements. Depending on the scope, the estimated cost range from approximately $14 million to about $25.5 million. So our next step is to share these findings with the community, given the important history associated with Hall A and its connection to the Japanese American community. And these findings will also help inform interpretive planning for the project, which will guide how the story of the site is told and also experienced. The interpretive framework will build basically the values of this work and on the efforts that I've recently mentioned, which includes the feasibility assessment, community and tribal input, and Hall A engineering study. We plan to bring an interpretive planning expertise to help guide that process, and we anticipate starting that work by the end of the month. So much of this work so far has focused on building the foundation needed to move this work forward, but next we're going to be focused on tribal consultation, community engagement, on the feasibility findings, Hall A, and the start of interpretive planning. I know we're limited today on time, and we have a lot to get through on sports, so I'm happy to follow up with any additional information that you need and follow up with any questions. Thank you. I'll hand it back to Cindy.
Next slide.
We're going to take questions after each section. Councilor Lewis, did you have a question?
I did, yeah. So my question is, with the infographic you showed, and that there were some clearly feasible, 30-something%, some that required conditions, 40-something%, that leads me to believe 10+% were decided to be infeasible. Could you describe the characterization of why, even with unlimited ideas about collaboration, money, et cetera, they would be infeasible?
Yes, so actually only 2 were considered to be not feasible, and that was because of legal or regulatory constraints. But 7 of the recommendations were actually not action items. They were more like values. So like approach the work in this way with these things in mind. And so those were not scored. So that's why
That's why it's a bigger percentage.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
And so the 2 items that had legal or regulatory, can you speak to which level of legal barrier? Was it state or federal or local?
I don't have those details in front of me, but I can definitely follow up.
Because I would say we do have legislative agendas both for the federal government and for the state legislature. Those things take a lot of time. They take a lot of momentum to build. But if there's something we really, really need, let's bring it to our agenda-making process.
Councilor Lewis, if I could, Craig Stroud, General Manager of Venues. If I recall correctly, and I'm pretty certain about this, the two are around protected class and recommendations that would have taken action based on protected class, which is technically illegal. So we understand the spirit of what the recommendations were, but as stated, they were in that vein.
Okay, thank you for that understanding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal. Thank you, Chair. Two questions. One question is, I was a little, or I guess I'm a little uncertain as to how specific the recommendations were for those changes. In other words, did they get down to a very detailed, administrative or structural changes? That's one question. And the second question was, in interacting with both the tribes as well as the indigenous communities, what is the significant difference, and is that going to involve separate interaction groups, or will the tribal consultations deal with the local indigenous community issues as well?
Yeah, thank you for your questions. I wanted to just make sure, see if Sienna was here, but I'm working closely with Tribal Affairs, and I would defer this question to them so that I don't mischaracterize the answer, and I can definitely follow up with you. I do know there's two separate processes. One is government to government, and the other one's working with the communities and some community groups. So we are doing two separate processes.
Okay, because I know that the tribal entities themselves are concerned with the local indigenous population. I was wondering to make sure that there's, shall we say, a good meshing of the consultations in that regard.
Thank you.
When do you think we'll be able to see like a financial feasibility plan for this element?
Deputy Council President Wong, can you elaborate on that question? Which element, or the entirety of it?
Well, I guess two questions. Like, when will we see like the financial structure for the historical memorialization piece? And then is that going to be tied to like fundraising, building the capital stack for the whole Expo project, or are they on separate tracks?
Yeah, so the HSMC recommendations, while we receive them concurrently, there are like critical path decisions that need to be made. Hall A would be an excellent example where Hall A's structure, its foundation, its entire mechanical systems are end of life. Land cited a $15 to $25 million cost just to preserve that envelope and bring it up to current standards with no improvements in it for interpretive or other uses. So there's a primary conversation with community around how important and whether that particular element will be in the vision, or if it will be replaced with a different interpretive element for a physical space. And then we can begin taking the interpretive framework and layering around that decision. As far as fundraising, we have had early conversations around how will this project be funded. There's obviously federal and nonprofit grants. There are private donations. We're in very early stages of that, and I don't have a sense of what the stack would look like or the depth of realistic monies that could be compiled through those sources. So that's part of the next series of conversations. How that relates to sports, we're trying to financially, we'll get to sports update here in a minute. We're trying to financially stabilize Expo so that we buy the time needed to get to those conversations and have a viable business operation up there. But it's going to, we're looking at years to move through these conversations and processes. This year's budget does include a couple $100,000 for an interpretive element that can show progress on that portion, because much of it is planning work that doesn't result in a visible improvement like the sports improvements will. So I think I've kind of danced around your question generally, but if there's something specific, please let me know.
So the biggest question is really what to do with Hall A.
Hall A is a very important question because that number that we cited is such a large number that, there is finite resources, so we'll be pushing those resources based on community feedback and your direction, but we need to know some of those critical pieces of information.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, I think we can move on to the sports.
All right. Thank you, Leanne. Next slide. Over the last 180 days, our focus has been validating market demand and building a sports tourism pipeline. We've already secured several new events as shown on this slide. These events bring new users to Expo and help us test operational models while expanding our sports portfolio. Equally important is the pipeline we've developed. We have several tentative bookings that we're actively pursuing. What is particularly encouraging is that these opportunities represent a diverse mix of sports, including events outside of basketball and volleyball. That diversification reduces risk and demonstrates broad market interest in Expo as a sports destination. Next slide. While pursuing bookings, we've also been building the framework necessary for long-term success. Staff completed a national pricing analysis and developed a sports-specific pricing structure aligned with comparable facilities across the country. We've also developed booking priorities and utilization strategies designed to balance sports tourism, community access, and annual repeat events. Relationship building is critical in sports tourism. Over the last 6 months, our sports tourism sales team attended Sports ETA and Teams, the two premier sports tourism conferences in North America. At each conference, they conducted more than 40 meetings with rights holders, governing bodies, tournament organizers, and industry partners. Those conversations are helping build the pipeline of opportunities we're discussing today. Next slide. The final piece of the strategy is creating awareness and positioning Expo as a future sports destination. We've expanded our participation in sports-specific conferences and launched targeted outreach to events rights holders and governing bodies. We're also planning a 2027 familiarization tour that will bring decision makers to Portland so they can experience Expo, OCC, and the region firsthand. We're creating and refreshing our sports tourism marketing materials, including a new sports tourism brochure, a one-page overview, and a dedicated sales presentation. Collectively, these efforts are creating a sales funnel that supports both near-term bookings and long-term vision for sports tourism at Expo. That concludes the sports marketing update. I'm happy to answer any questions, or I can move on to the sports infrastructure project update.
Your colleagues, any questions?
Mr. Chair.
I have one question.
Okay, let's start with Councilor Nolan.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Do we have a comprehensive list of all the sports that the facility could or will be able to accommodate? Everybody's creating new sports all the time, and I'm just wondering, for example, pickleball, which is a popular one, who knows, or badminton. Do we have a comprehensive list and are we going out with people and saying, if you have this sport, we can accommodate it?
Yes, yep. Most sport court floor sports.
Okay.
Anything on a flat floor court.
Flat floor court sports.
So we have stanchions at this end and a side post here that we can do any of that stuff. Okay.
Yep.
And we could.
I'll talk a little, and we have talked in the past, but primarily the revenue lies and demand lies in volleyball and basketball.
Right.
However, of course, we want to diversify that and have martial arts and dance, cheer, pickleball, badminton, dodgeball. We just had a dodgeball tournament, which was great.
Judo, jiu-jitsu.
Yes, yeah, we already have those booked.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thanks.
Councilor Nolan.
You just answered my question. I wanted you to entice us a little with the kinds of opportunities you're pursuing, as long as it doesn't jeopardize any live conversations.
Yes. No.
I think you're good.
Yeah.
Councilor Lewis.
Sure, as you're working, as the slide says, to advance conversation with rights holders who are your more formal organizations for these sports, are any of them single-sex sport organizations or single-gendered sports organizations? Or are they like Federation of Basketball, Federation of Jiu-Jitsu? Or are they gender-specific?
That I don't know, but I can bring up Alicia, part of our sports tourism marketing team.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm Alicia Crawford-Luce. I'm a Senior National Sales Executive for OCC and Expo. And yes, we run the gamut from single sex. We have gay basketball, which is men and women. We had the National Gay, North American Gay Volleyball Association last year, which is men and women as well. So it goes from co-ed to single sex sports, depending on the opportunity.
Great, thank you.
We're open to all of it.
I think there's kind of two lines here. One through line is that we're obviously experiencing a women's sports boom, and we are on the map in a serious way globally as well as nationwide, and we should prioritize that when we can. And then there's also just the threat of being inclusive, and that's what Portland and Oregon are about. So to the extent that any of these organizations want to be pretty exclusionary, I would deprioritize working with them.
And we are not seeing that at all. The sports community seems to be a very open, welcoming environment. We're having very good experiences and very good conversations with people. They're excited to come to Portland.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Alicia.
Can you maybe say a little bit more about how the whole marketing ecosystem works together to accomplish our desired outcomes? And I'm thinking about Travel Portland, Sport Oregon, what's everyone's role and what's everyone doing?
Well, we basically consider Sport Oregon, Travel Portland, and the Oregon Convention Center and Expo Center as the sports tourism marketing team. So we work hand in hand on building the pipeline, putting a bid together, and then developing the contracts, site tours. When they're out in the field, they're all three entities, Travel Portland, Sport Oregon, and Expo/OCC are represented, and we are a team that goes out and markets together. We're building the marketing materials and presentations together. So it's a full-on team effort. It's very similar to how the Convention Center for Convention Marketing works with Travel Portland and our hospitality community and the local hotels. And I mean, I'll also just state that the building the pipeline and the sales process, sports tourism as well as convention business, is a lengthy period. It goes in phases. So we're building relationships, and the team have been cultivating relationships for years with now finally having something almost tangible to really be able to sell. I mean, OCC and Expo do have sporting events. Currently, Expo, 30% of their events are sporting events. So when we bring in the courts, then it's basically going to be a turnkey solution for these groups. That's really when we're going to see a jump in sports tourism in Portland.
Are you marketing with the future improvements that are planned now that we just approved a general contractor?
This spring, yes.
Okay, so it's already in the marketing materials that we're going to have these amenities.
They are talking to the rights holders about this project, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
One other quick question. One other quick question. I just, I'm cognizant of the fact that the NC2A has had its track and field in Eugene this week. And I'm just wondering, would we be able to host, or would we market NC2A for volleyball tournaments? I mean, because they have national volleyball tournaments and things like that, which would be something we could do.
So Jim Etzel, CEO of Sport Oregon. Regarding NCAA championships around volleyball or basketball, this would be a complementary facility to Portland being a host. Those events happen in an arena, 15 to 20,000 capacity, because they are turnstile events or spectator events. Why it would be benefit us winning bids like the Women's Final Four is oftentimes there would be a youth volleyball, like a girls volleyball tournament aligned with women's volleyball Final Four NCAA, or we could create such an event during Final Four in 2030. So it enhances our marketplace overall to win those large spectator sports tourism bids. This facility would be what we would categorize primarily a participatory sports tourism facility. So these grassroots tournaments, et cetera.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, next slide. Our next update responds to the questions posed at the February 10th joint Metro Council and Merck work session on interim sports investments and provides a staff recommendation for moving the interim sports investment forward. Next slide. The purpose of this work is to evaluate the long-term strategic uses of Halls D and E. You asked us to analyze and better understand the financial implications of the sports pivot to Expo, the broader economic impacts to the region, and the public community benefits associated with increased sports use. Our research is not simply about sports versus consumer shows. It is about identifying the best long-term balance of uses that maximizes public value, financial sustainability, and economic impact. Next slide. A key question posed at the February joint Metro Merck work session was whether Expo should become a dedicated 365-day sports facility or evolve over a period of time into a sports prioritized mixed-use venue. We heard Councilor and Commissioner desire for more regular community access to sports infrastructure in the future model. This distinction is important because the Hunden analysis shows strong sports demand, but also highlights the continued importance of consumer shows and annual repeat events to Expo's sustainability. Our intent is to determine which model best balances venue utilization, revenue stability, tourism generation, and community access. Next slide. This slide illustrates the broader vision of sports use at Expo. Weekday, daytime use could support public access and community recreation opportunities. Weekday evenings create opportunities for adult and youth league and club play. Weekends become the primary driver for regional tournaments and sports tourism. Next slide. The Hunden analysis confirms that sports tourism demand is strong, particularly for volleyball, basketball, martial arts, cheer, and dance events. However, the demand is highly seasonal and concentrated primarily between December and May. That seasonality becomes one of the most important considerations in evaluating a full 365-day sports model. Next slide. While most of today's discussion focuses on Halls D and E, we also need to consider the future of the other halls. These structures are much older than Halls D and E and in need of substantial maintenance and repair. Because the structures are so old and outdated, preserving the halls of A, B, and C will require smart and limited investments that will maintain the financial viability of the campus while Metro evaluates future redevelopment opportunities. And as Leanne mentioned earlier, we just completed an engineering assessment for Hall A and are beginning conversations about the future of that historic space. In addition, Expo is currently conducting comprehensive facility condition assessments on Halls D and E, and updates to prior assessments for Halls A, B, and C. Those assessments are scheduled to be completed this fall. We are aware of a significant HVAC replacement need in Hall D and E, and as we move forward with the sports infrastructure project, if the sports project scope comes in below budget, Halls D and E HVAC improvements and other facility enhancements could be evaluated as add alternatives to further support the long-term functionality and competitiveness of the venue. Next slide. To develop a recommendation for operating models, we evaluated 3 scenarios. Scenario 1 represents a full sports-only operating model in both Halls D and E. Scenario 2 creates a sports anchor with Hall E while maintaining flexibility in Hall D for annual repeat events and consumer shows. Scenario 3 maintains both halls as mixed-use spaces. The goal of this comparison is to understand the trade-offs between sports tourism, annual repeat events, financial sustainability, community access, and operational flexibility. Next slide. Scenario 1 evaluates what a full 365-day sports model could look like at Expo and the likely outcomes of pivoting Expo Halls D and E to 365 sports. The most significant challenge of this model is that projected tournament demand only accounts for 86 event days annually, leaving about 280 unused calendar days. Shifting to a sports-only facility would likely leave the Expo Center empty half of the year, providing community and public benefit while not generating much revenue. This scenario reduces Expo operating revenues by more than half, further degrades Expo financial sustainability, and would most likely force the Expo Center to reevaluate its management and staffing model. Next slide. Scenario 2 evaluates an operating model with Hall E functioning as the primary sports anchor. This scenario provides a balanced operating model. Hall E would primarily support sports tournaments, league play, and community recreation 285 days a year. This allows Expo to prioritize sports growth without fully eliminating annual repeat business from Hall E. This model improves calendar balance, maintains valuable annual repeat events, reduces financial risk, and supports continued sports tourism growth. It also creates more predictable opportunities for community access and reoccurring recreational programming, as Hall E would be predictably available 285 days a year. Next slide. Scenario 3 evaluates maintaining both halls as mixed-use spaces. This scenario is essentially what was presented in February. It preserves the greatest flexibility for existing annual repeat events and consumer shows, with the downside of reducing regular and predictable community use of the sports investment. Next slide. There are two major business realities that emerge from this analysis. First, even with league play and community use, sports alone are unlikely to fully fill a year-round calendar. Second, consumer shows and annual repeat events contribute to the region's livability and economic prosperity for residents and exhibitors, and are critical for Expo's financial sustainability. This reinforces the importance of evaluating a balanced and diversified operating strategy while we continue to build our sports tourism portfolio. Importantly, sports tourism represents a strong growth opportunity, but is not a complete replacement for Expo's existing revenue model. The Hall E Sports Anchor scenario allows Expo to maximize calendar utilization, diversify revenues, generate economic impact, increase room nights and taxes, and expand predictable community access. This model also reduces long-term financial exposure while positioning Expo for future sports tourism growth. Next slide. There are still important operational considerations that will require additional work. Some events may have the ability to move to OCC, although doing so could impact convention center availability and booking opportunities. We will also need to work closely with existing Expo clients around date flexibility and move-in, move-out efficiencies. Next slide. Based on the analysis, staff recommends scenario 2. This model establishes Hall E as a dedicated sports anchor for approximately 280 days annually, while maintaining Hall D flexibility for sports, plus annual repeat events and consumer shows. It allows Expo to grow sports tourism and community access while preserving important existing business relationships and revenue streams. The recommendation is intentionally phased and balanced rather than an immediate full conversion to a sports-only model. Next slide. That concludes our presentation. We are seeking an endorsement of the Hall E Sports Anchor scenario so we can finalize designs, initiate construction, and meet the timeline for a sports-ready Expo opening in winter 2028. Thank you. We are now available for questions and feedback.
Thank you. Colleagues. Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Chair. One of the things I guess I'm a little confused about is most of the discussion was on D&E, and it seems like there's, and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like there's three elements that are somewhat separate. A, D and E, which are newer, and then B and C, which are older and require more work. And under the Anchor E scenario would be sort of mixed use, mostly community use and so forth, but would require a different budgeting process or a different restoration process. Is that correct?
Okay, so.
Your slides mentioned D and E mostly and didn't mention B and C much.
Yes, and that's intentional because the sports infrastructure project is for Halls D and E only.
Right, okay.
Right. So the entire Expo Future project includes the entire campus. So we are presenting on Hall A for the Expo Future project when it comes to the historical memorialization portion of the project. Hall B and C and would, in the vision of the Expo Future project, most likely be demolished and then rebuilt for additional sporting activities, such as perhaps an ice rink or other sporting facilities. Hall D and E, the Expo Future project, was always going to be retained for sport court floors. So this is just one of the first phases to the overall Expo Future project in Hall D and E. So that's why we're focusing on D and E. However, we have to look at the whole campus when we're talking about the question of should we move Expo fully into a 365 sporting facility. So if we were to do that and take D and E and only use it for sports, all of our consumer shows use Hall D and E, and then A, B, and C. So that would eliminate the ability, quite frankly, to service any of our current annual consumer shows if we were to use Hall D and E for sports only. B and C would be available for events, but due to the desirability of those particular halls and the need for more space for consumer shows, it wouldn't be likely that we would be able to rent them on their own.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. Thank you, that clarifies it.
Sure.
Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much. Couple of thoughts. One, I'm so excited. This is really important and good work, both mixing the real economic development of people coming here to participate, of us being able to host nationally, globally, regionally relevant events. But it also is really complicated because of not only the factors that we've mentioned here in terms of historic and architectural, and we're gonna have to get the technical and the budget right, but we're also at a very particular site adjacent to light rail that we will be extended. And we will be extending that light rail, by the way, all the way to Evergreen. But I am curious where we are in sequencing the 28 opening alongside Interstate Bridge construction sequencing. Sorry, Ted.
I can answer that question.
Oh, okay.
I've had the most current conversations with the IVR team and TriMet. We're led to believe that access to the facility will be maintained predominantly through the duration of IBR construction. There might be times when lanes are closed or it might be a little bit more challenging, but access to the campus is planned for and included. There are impacts to the campus footprint itself. Mostly it's along the current Mac Station and then the Marine Drive corner where Cirque du Soleil sets up. And we'll lose a little bit of that corner as they realign Marine Drive and create an access road and adjust the station slightly. So perhaps there are minor impacts to Cirque du Soleil's footprint, and they will be coming back in the future, Cirque du Soleil. But as far as access to the campus, access to normal functionality, our conversations have been positive and assuring that Expo can continue to thrive or be able to thrive even with construction of that scale.
Great. And when you say reduction of the Cirque du Soleil footprint, I know they take up space, but they also have these things under the earth that their tent hooks into. Are those hook-in spots impacted by the
I don't believe that the main tent is impacted. It's some of the ancillary temporary structures, and then they park and down in those areas, and it might just have to move up in the lot slightly. But we think it's all manageable.
Okay, great. Glad you think it's all manageable. That's great. I'm excited by the prospect of welcoming folks in who are going to stay in hotels and stay in hotels in Oregon. There will obviously be some natural spillover, and folks, particularly once there's light rail, will stay in Vancouver. But is it too early for us to begin talking with the hotelier community about preferences, about booking arrangements, about minimum booking requirements in order to get preference, and also work with our ECDev partners to make sure they have money for necessary upgrades to attract the kind of clientele we'll be attracting?
Yes, we actually revised Expo's scheduling policy, and that's going in front of Merck Commission on July 1st.
Oh, it's happening right now. Great.
Yep. And so there is a, so very similar to the convention center where the first priority of business is convention business. And there's requirements on a certain number of hotel rooms on peak. And then based on how far out they're booking. So if they're booking within 3 years, within 3 to 5 years out, 5 years out. So the further they're out, the bigger piece of business is what we want. Similar to sports tourism. So the timeline is shorter because their booking window is shorter than, say, convention business, but it's prioritizing sports tourism with a shorter booking window and a smaller room block for the tourism district and hotels in the Portland regional area.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that's current conversation.
Yep. Happy to send you a draft.
Oh, I'll read it. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My questions actually take a different look at it from the way Councilor Lewis did, but I think they're on the same topic. Expo Center is not in a commercial urban area like the convention center is, and the work we're doing to boost the economic activity, the foot traffic around the convention center makes sense to me. Who are we up against, or what kind of aspects of similar regional focused with some national as well sports venues are we competing with, and what kind of walkable amenities do they have? Right now, Expo's kind of self-sufficient. It's the activity that happens around our events there is at Expo. People don't look somewhere for a cup of coffee or some other activity. How much of a disadvantage is that for us? Do we have examples of similarly situated sports venues that have done something to compete with more urban settings? And other than hotels, what is our plan to make sure that Expo can compete with a setting that maybe has kids' activities, coffee shops, that kind of thing?
Let me take for a shot at that one, because I went on the tour. We did some best practices tour in the Southeast where there's many of these facilities. Interestingly, none of the facilities that we visited in large metropolitan areas, Memphis, Birmingham, were located in like a downtown core or even in a facilities district core. They were relatively isolated. The facilities were operating as standalone facilities. Currently, folks, where we have limited numbers of tournaments in our region. They're traveling around the region between high schools and gymnasiums that might be associated with churches, and so it's very dispersed, and the facilities, frankly, are not the quality of this facility that we'll be able to put under single or two roofs side by side. That said, the vision for Expo includes amenity development. We need to proof the concept and build the demand before those amenities will present themselves. But we are in conversations through our partners with the businesses at Delta Park, with the businesses on Hayden Island, informing them of our plans, ensuring they understand and can prepare themselves for this opportunity in the future. But you're right in that I do think in a long time horizon, some of those amenities will need to become present in the proximate neighborhood, including Delta Park, Portland International Raceway, and Expo Center as a cohesive sports and outdoor recreation hub for our region. We're just at the tippy-toe stages of that. And the first piece is to actually build what will draw these visitors, which is these courts and these flat floor courts. We need to rebrand them as something that we can just say easily. What is it?
Floor sports.
Floor sports, yes.
I'm going to write that down.
Portland court.
And we will continue to just work this problem until we can generate that ecosystem that that imagines what you're describing. It's just this really energized street level activity.
I'll add to the Hayden Meadows shopping area right next to the Delta Park facility. The owners of that have already started to evolve their, strategy on the type of attendance that they want to attract to leverage what's goes on every day at Delta Park with youth and family tournaments, activities there, and also what we hope to be coming at Expo. So they've already invested in a very nice food cart pod that is very secure and has a family area in it. The type of things that they're doing in the old Dick's Sporting Goods is going to be a family activity center. There's been talk about indoor baseball, pickleball facilities there. There is a discussion going on with the city of Portland even for pedestrian bridge going from the old Walmart parking lot across the wetlands and directly into Delta Park. So they see the future of that shopping area or commercial area being complementary and an additive to the district if it becomes more sports focused.
Fabulous, that's good news. Thanks.
Okay, do you need like a endorsement from us on one of those plans?
A thumbs up or thumbs down, I think, would.
I agree with option 2.
Yeah,
Just so, if you're paying attention, not counting votes.
I think
support your recommendation for option 2.
Deputy Council President Huang, I think what's right is for council to reflect, just as Councilor Nolan has sort of their guidance and, support for the different options that have been presented. We're in work session, so there's no formal vote that's being taken right now. So just that reflection is what's needed.
Okay, great. Yeah, option 2 sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say proceed with 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Option 2 it is. Thank you.
And really well done.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to COO Communications. We have Andrew Scott for updates.
Great, thank you, Deputy Council President. Andrew Scott, Deputy Chief Operating Officer. I'm going to call up Ted Liebold, who is going to give a JPACT update. And while Ted is getting situated, I just wanted to note that we have an employee, Bill Stein, who I believe just hit his 30-year anniversary yesterday. And one of the things we're trying to do is highlight a little bit some people who have hit really big milestones, 30 years and above. So Ted, not to put you on the spot, but Bill is a senior researcher and modeler. And I don't know if you have, he's not able to be here today, so we don't need to dwell too much, but I always like to notice it when we can. And if you wanted to say 30 seconds and then move on to JPACT, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes, Bill has obviously been a longtime employee at Metro and really got in on the ground level of the modern era of our traffic forecast modeling work, and has been a real key cog in the development of that model as we've advanced its capabilities over the years, and is just been a great employee to contribute to that. So yeah, great that we're recognizing.
30 years is a long time to be anywhere. But
Exactly.
we appreciate that and his service to the region.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I might, it's delightful to hear that it isn't just seat time that we're honoring. It is his contributions to the Metro mission.
Yep.
And that he continues to be excited about that.
Yes.
Hi, Bill.
Yes, Bill, I hope if you're not watching now, you at least come back and watch the recording. So, okay, so today I'm just going to give you a short update on the JPAC meeting we had this morning. It was a very lively meeting. We had 3 action items, getting some chuckles from JPAC members. We did have a consent agenda, which included our standard monthly MTIP amendment bundle. We had an amendment to the MTIP to modify 3 elements and add 1 new project element of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project. And we had an action to recommend to the Metro Council adoption of the new 2027 through 30 Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program, which you will take up consideration of at your July 2nd meeting, since that was passed at JPAC. Just a little more detail, play-by-play action on the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program amendment. We had the standard amendment, the proposed amendment from recommendation from the Transportation Policy Alternatives Committee, TPAC, that came to the table. We entertained 3 amendment proposals this morning. One amendment was to request a change to the project description language for the new project element, which is the IBR program related to the transit project development work that's being added to the MTIP. That amendment failed after consideration. A second amendment request was to recognize the importance of the small business enterprise participation goals and targets, implementation of a community benefits plan, and a plan for preventing displacement and mitigation construction impacts. It was basically a statement of support for those activities and recognizing those. That amendment did pass and will be reflected in the materials that you will see next Tuesday at your next meeting. And then the third amendment request was to express support and encourage the Bi-State Tolling Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of the Oregon Transportation Commission and the Washington State Transportation Committee, or Commission, and they implement the low-income toll program, but encouraging them to implement a low-cost program. That amendment actually failed, so it is not included. It will not be included in the materials you will see next Tuesday. And then wrap that up with a final vote on the amendment as amended, and that was approved. So you will be seeing that amendment with the additional new language coming to you on Tuesday. Is there anything else our members might share? Or
Thanks for that summary. I do believe that is what happened.
okay, great. Okay, any questions from folks?
Can you say a little bit more about the public testimony we received?
Sure, yeah, we started off the meeting with, I believe, 8 to 12.
Not even 12. I would
Yeah.
characterize it as 8.
8, yeah, persons who showed up to testify. We did get it in within the time we allotted, so that was helpful because it was a busy agenda. I think the comments we received were really targeted, I think for the most part, on the amendments that I just described, either supporting those. There was also testimony just in support of the amendment in whole by a couple of the testifiers.
I think we had one public comment of the bundle that was majority on Rose Quarter, which was posted as a discussion item, but will be a voting item for next meeting.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks for the update.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you on Tuesday.
That's all I had. Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilor Communications. Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. I wanted to report that last Thursday, we haven't had Council Communications since last Thursday. The Future Vision Commission met. It was an in-person meeting here in this room. And we had lively discussion, and we definitely got to hear more from the youth who are planning the youth summits. And it was also an opportunity to dive deeper into some of the exercises we did together as a group on Tuesday, including getting some kind of future state suggestions into like a Google form so that they actually have written ideation to go along with every single one of those trailheads from the whole body. So they are sorting through all of that. I also wanted to report back after the Metro South Community Enhancement Grant meeting in Oregon City on Monday nights. As a reminder, that Metro Enhancement Grant Committee is the full Oregon City Commission plus 3 community members plus myself. We reviewed the applications from the community and were able to find either full or partial funding for all but 3 of those applications. And we did do some financial analysis and review. Obviously, tonnage going down has impacted the fund. And we've always spent a little bit more than that current year. So we've been kind of winnowing away a corpus and putting that into community work. But we continued that trend, but to a more minor extent than we have in previous years. So.
Thank you. Councilor Rosenthal. Thank you, Chair. Two items. First, the Parks Department or Parks and Nature has had 2 onboarding sessions for new members or replacement members for the Parks Bond Oversight Committee. They had those separate meetings, one in person and one viewed. Some of the I think there were 6 new members, just giving them a background of what they're expected to do over the next year about the Parks Bond and reviewing that. That's one thing. Another thing is that we've had participation with the regional investment coordination strategy with some of the cities making presentations, particularly on the success of the Parks Bond so far and the need and the considerations going forward in trying to establish a new levy in the future. So we've had discussions with several cities on that. Productive, people are supportive of parks. One of the interesting things is that one of the highlights of what our survey has done for basically in our future vision is a lot of the cities identify green space, parks, environment, open space, nature as their high priority items going forward.
Thank you. Okay, well, seeing no further discussion, the council meeting is adjourned. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for June 23rd at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Record.